Okay, how's everybody doing? Hope you're doing well. Good to see everybody today. I'm going to do a little supplemental evidence for my paper available at savanana.org called The Metabolism of Mammals. It's a pretty simple paper with a simple premise that is rather profound in terms of health and sickness. So I'm making this supplemental evidence so that people can comprehend the significance of that paper. So we're going to start out with pretty much the entire premise of the paper has to do with the two types of cells on Earth. One of them is a plant cell and the other is an animal cell. Plant cells have a very hard cellulose wall called a cell wall, while animal cells have a very soft, very thin fatty membrane. When we look down here, we can see that the lipid phosphate layer is very delicate and it has proteins on either side to communicate with the neighboring cells, whereas the cell wall is rigid and non-living. It doesn't communicate. And the difference here between the two, they call plants autotrophs because they are stationary and they can create their own food via photosynthesis. And animals are called heterotrophs because we have to walk around to get our food. And this is the difference between the two main life forms on Earth. Cell walls or fatty membranes. Cell walls, again, are made of cellulose and they're very rigid. So when we look down here at the difference between the digestive system between other grade 8 primates and humans, we see that it's generally the same. And there's a couple of key differences that we'll talk about. So orangutans and chimpanzees and other great apes like gorillas, billy apes, bonobos, they have all been documented in the wild to eat meat in various degrees, and that has to do with this cell membrane, fatty cell membrane situation in the metabolism of mammals. We can see here that orangutans and chimpanzees and gorillas have a more robust colon system because of their survival strategy of mainly plants. When we go down to the humans, we see that the colon is much different. And the primary differences that we'll be talking about today is the disappearance of the cecum. The cecum is an additional organ that great apes have, and in humans, it's all but disappeared. The reason being, it's connected to the appendix, and I will share once again a secret recovered deep within yogic meditation that all people with a conscious mind can attain the answers to all questions in this place. And the appendix is actually related to the storage, maintenance, and safekeeping of very complex microorganisms in mammals that are primarily plant-based in terms of nutrition. So the microorganisms live in this cecum area, and because plants have so many plant toxins to defend themselves, they constantly have to reintroduce different types of complex microbiota into the cecum, and that's why the appendix is so large compared to humans. So this is the reason why so many millions of people experience this exploding appendix within their body because humans are eating too many plants. Typical healthy so-called balanced meals only have 20% of lean meats and 80% of grains, legumes, fruits, and salads. And when we go back up to the cell walls, we see here that cell walls are very difficult to digest. And that's part of the reason why people are experiencing these appendix explosions. So we have to essentially invert this this ratio of foods, because humans, essentially because we have a smaller appendix and we lack the cecum, we have to derive our nutrients from actual other cell membranes. We have to eat other mammals or other animals, and we actually use their cell membranes to create the cell membranes in our brain, in our blood, and da da da. So this is, the cecum is, it says here, a critical, highly developed component of the digestive tract of many species, acting as a fermentation vat from the National Institute of Health. It harbors a vast, complex, and relatively understudied ecosystem. And that's another secret I'm sharing here today. When mammals are essentially referred to as vegetarian or vegan, like cows or horses, they actually have to chew the grass or plant matter twice because of the very tough cell wall. And actually, in some of my other papers, I've actually provided documentation that so-called vegan or vegetarian animals, like every great ape primate, has been documented to eat meat in the wild, as well as even cows or deer or even elephants. Elephants have been promoted by the vegan agenda to as a description of the potential of veganism. And even elephants have been found to eat birds and bird nests and birds' eggs because of essentially of this fatty lipid membrane situation. They require a certain number of these cells in order to maintain their brain and their body. So when we go and to the extreme side of herbivores in the monkey and primate genera or orders, we see kind of a very similar bovine stomach or ruminant chamber, as well as an enlarged cecum. And so what is a ruminant? The word ruminant is derived from the chewing again. Ruminants are animals with 4-part stomachs, which allows them to better chew their food. And it says that, they access nutrients in doing so. But when we actually look into the biology of the metabolism of mammals, when we study bovines and ruminants and rabbits, they actually don't derive their nutrients from the grass. They actually derive the nutrients from the countless millions of living and dying microorganisms taking place in the ruminant, which is where they recover their fatty membranes in order to replenish their own fatty membranes. So when we look at actual cow dung, we see that it's very different from mammalian predator scat, because the grass is actually still visible, and that's because the cow does not eat the grass. Okay, this is a very important point, and the reason this is the case is because of the cellulose, very tough cell walls. And mammals, again, in my paper called The Metabolism of Mammals, our metabolism requires us to eat fatty lipid membranes in order to recover the necessary building blocks that we need for our brain and for our blood. So this is a huge secret, again, that I'm sharing with everybody. And even when we look at the yuga cycles from the yoga perspective, or the ancient monism Vedanta, we see that humans, in particular portions of the yuga cycles, do eat meat. And that's because of the oscillation of our biology and the sun energy and a lot of different stuff that we go over in my private yoga classes. So again, if anybody's interested in looking at the paper that I provide for free to all humans, you can go to savanana.org, and the paper is called The Metabolism of Mammals. I hope this helps to further illustrate the very important points that I shared there for free to all people. And I hope everybody's doing well out there, and thank you again, my friends.